All right, good afternoon, everybody. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk a little baseball with our team at Ripken Baseball today. We know you have plenty of options to choose from when planning your 2019 tournament season, so our goal today is to help make that decision a little clearer and hopefully a little bit easier by the time we wrap our session today. So hopping right in, let me go ahead and introduce our team today. I'm John Rowland, Marketing Manager here at Ripken Baseball, and today I'm fortunate enough to be joined by two of our incredibly sharp teammates. First, welcome Andy Levy, our National Sales Manager. Andy joins us with over 10 plus years of experience at Ripken Baseball and knows tournaments like the back of his hand. Second, also please help me in welcoming Nick Stringfellow, our Marketing Coordinator. Nick is a key member and cog behind our emails, website, and other digital communication you may receive from our team. However, Nick started his roots at Ripken as a sales representative, so he has worked with hundreds of teams going through the same planning process you guys are going through currently. Today, we'll be given a brief overview of each of our three incredible Ripken experience locations. Then, we'll dig into the factors of our tournaments that make Ripken stand out above other tournament options you may be considering for 2019. Now, getting into some quick housekeeping before we kick off. Whether it's your first webinar or you're a seasoned pro, we want to take a moment to point out the questions feature of your console. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see a questions tab. This will allow you to submit questions in real time to our staff. Why is that important? Well, at the end of our session today, we'll go ahead and take your questions, and we'll answer a lot of these live through a Q&A session with our staff on the line. If we can't get to your question today, don't worry. We'll have a teammate circle back after our session and reach back out directly with an answer and help continue that conversation. To make sure everyone is comfortable and has heard me clearly so far, go ahead and submit a question by letting me know where you're joining us from today. So once again, you can go ahead and do that via the questions tab. While you're submitting a location that you're joining from, I just also want to direct your attention to the right-hand side once again to look at our handouts tab. There's going to be three handouts on here, one for each of our facilities, Myrtle Beach, Pigeon Forge, and Aberdeen. These handouts are going to be extremely important as you go through your planning process because it's going to have the nuts and bolts of our package. So that's going to include pricing, schedule, features, and other goodies that you want to bring back to your team. Now, don't worry about taking notes today because that is going to be your reference after the fact. So feel free to download that throughout today's session. Wow, it looks like we have people joining us from across the country today, whether it be Chicago, Michigan, or even Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We welcome you guys all today. Awesome. So it seems like we already have a bunch of webinar pros on our hands today. With that being said, let me go ahead and pass the mic to Andy to speak about our three incredible destinations.
Thanks, John. In Myrtle Beach, we're going into our 13th season. We feature 4 60-90 diamonds as well as 5 youth fields at this complex. During the spring, we host hundreds of college and high school baseball and softball teams that use our facility as their spring training destination. In May and June, we host a collegiate league. And starting in the middle of the summer, June and July, we host 8 week-long experience events, really aimed at being the centerpiece of your team's summer schedule for travel teams from 10 to 16U from across the country and internationally. In Myrtle Beach specifically, we're less than 2 miles from the beach, less than 5 miles from the airport, and surrounded by amusement, food, and a bunch of activities. In Pigeon Forge, we're going into our 4th season of operation with significant growth. This past summer alone, we hosted nearly 300 teams. At this complex, we feature 6 youth fields located on the side of a mountain looking down over Pigeon Forge. For those of you who may not be as familiar with Pigeon Forge, it's located in eastern Tennessee and situated right next to the Smoky Mountains. In the spring, we do a lot of high school softball programming, and in midsummer, again in June and July, we'll host 8 week-long summer events, again, aimed at being the centerpiece of your team's summer schedule, more specifically for 10 to 12 UH teams, but again, from across the country and internationally as well. In Aberdeen, it's where everything started for our team. We're right in Cal and Bill Ripken's backyard in their hometown. We're actually located next door to the home of the Aberdeen Ironbirds, which is an affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles, who are about 30 minutes south of our complex. Most of our Aberdeen tournament schedule really consists of hosting weekend style tournaments and camps throughout the spring, summer, and fall. However, for 1 week each year during the summer, we host our Blue Crab week-long tournament, which features 12U and 13U. And during this event in particular, we actually host an Under the Lights with Cal and Bill. And actually the photo that is currently presented is a snapshot from our Under the Lights this past summer, where Cal and Bill had an opportunity to talk about their experiences of baseball, as well as the youth and the audience, the players, coaches, and their families had a chance to ask them both questions.
Thanks, Andy. We know everyone in attendance today plays an incredibly important role within our organization. So we'd like to have some fun real quick and do a quick poll to understand who's actually in the room today. When you have the opportunity, please select which role you play in your organization. Are you the coach? Are you the team admin? Are you the parent? Or are you just on here today to learn a little bit more about what we have to offer? Go ahead, feel free to submit. Now, Andy, while they're submitting that information, we mentioned briefly earlier that you spent 10 plus years with Ripken baseball, and let me be the first to say that's no joke. So in that time, I'm sure you've seen a lot of change over the years. Can you go into a little bit more detail how our brand has adapted and where our focus really has shifted?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I started with Ripken baseball in the fall of 2004. So when I began, Myrtle Beach, let alone Pigeon Forge, didn't yet exist for us. When I first started, we were really an instructional business, teaching players and coaches about the game and how to improve their skill sets. Obviously, the youth market really shifted into bigger tournaments. So we started to shift our focus in providing experiences for not just players and coaches, but also the traveling families, which is why we've cemented our flagpoles and two other destinations in Myrtle Beach and Pigeon Forge, because it really allows for the whole family to be involved with the event. But the biggest thing has really been our focus on the total experience for players, families, and making sure they get a good youth baseball experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. It looks like we actually have a lot of head coaches in the room today, but it seems like there's also a good chunk that are here to just learn a little bit more. So once again, if you're here to learn more, feel free to use that questions tab, and we'll go ahead and answer those in a few minutes. So to dig in a bit further, I'm actually going to go ahead and pass off the mic to Nick.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Andy. Now that we've given an overview of each of our Ripken locations, we'll take a dive into what makes the Ripken experience different from some of those other options out there. Nearly all of our team members here have coached travel baseball at one point or another, so we know what's involved to make the coach experience as streamlined as possible. Other tournaments provide limited opportunities to practice or warm up during your event, but here at Ripken, we offer an abundance of batting cages, bullpens, and training spaces, so you'll never have to start a game cold. That includes training spaces around the facility, as well as right up against your fields. In the last year or so, we've launched our new Ripken Baseball mobile app, which houses all of your game day schedules and results. Coaches, parents, and fans are just a click away from the information they need to arrive on time and immerse themselves in the action. So we want you to spend your time coaching, not sending emails or texts.
Our aim with our week experiences is really to create lifelong memories for the entire family, not just for players in particular. The locations and the off-complex activities these destinations offer is really a big part of that. And we certainly get that the family time and vacation time are valuable and limited. So there's really no need for parents to really compromise between their ball players' commitment and really what makes sense for the family. Whether it's enjoying a great week of baseball, but also having the ability to go to the beach or water parks, enjoy, the theme parks like Dollywood or go-karts or mini golf, or literally just simply enjoying the breathtaking Mountain View backdrop in Pigeon Forge, really the activities that players and their families enjoy, outside of the game of baseball.
So do you guys want your ball players to feel like big leaguers? Because that's how we want to treat them at the Ripken experience. Every batter's name will be announced via public address. Pump-up music will play in between innings and in between at-bats. Water and cups are ready for you in the dugout, and every field offers unique dimensions and character. So in Myrtle Beach, we feature replicas of historic major league parks, like Polo Grounds and Ebbets Field. Players in Pigeon Forge literally work their way up the mountain of the minor leagues, as we've modeled each field after one of Cal and Bill's favorite minor league parks, beginning with Single A and progressing up through the majors. Aberdeen houses the storied Cal Seniors Yard, a 2/3 scale replica of Oriole Park at Camden Yards, featuring a Marriott hotel modeled after the Utah Street warehouse and overlooking the field. This won't feel like league play here, as we do our best to match you up against teams outside your region who you'd rarely see otherwise. We believe it, and we truly deliver a big league experience.
And we're also on your team. We've got a two-phased dedicated staff. You'll have folks such as somebody like myself, who is your personal sales representative, who really gets to know you, your team, your program, your area. And we're really dedicated to making sure that you have the information to present to your team and your families to be able to make informed decisions on the best options for your group. And then once your team is registered, we will actually have a dedicated, what we call team coordinator. And their role is really to answer as many additional questions you may have as you continue planning throughout the course of the calendar year. Could be anything from lodging questions to some of the best places to eat and those sorts of things. But our team coordinator's goal is really to make sure that every coach, parent, ball player leaves the Ripken experience wanting to come back, having had a great time at the complex and on vacation as a whole. Now, the baseball experience is 100% turnkey. The things you do not need to worry about are scheduling, bringing umpires, bringing game baseballs, field maintenance, or knowing the ground rules. The things you do need to know is simple: show up, warm up, and play. We take care of everything else. And again, our full-time staff at each of our locations, they are situated in the area. So they're not just seasonal hires. They literally live in the areas. So again, they know where to eat, where to drink, where to play. They've got you covered. You don't have to spend hours reading restaurant reviews unless you really want to.
So there's really nothing better than being able to pack the stands with your friends and family. So we'll do our part in making that experience as accessible as possible. It all starts with free parking as you arrive at the facility, and it continues with free entrance into the park. There's no nickeling or diming here. Feel free to pack a cooler full of drinks and snacks, but don't worry, we'll always have concessions fresh and ready for those midday meals and ballpark cravings. Now that we've covered some of the unique pieces of our experience, Andy will help us dive into the details of the week-long package itself.
Yeah, so our week-long tournaments, the package consists of a 6-game minimum guarantee. Teams can play up to 9 games, depending on how well you do in elimination. We'll feature an opening day and skills competition, as well as unique player and coach gifts. We also do a commemorative piece, which is the Ripken Experience ring, and that is for every player and coach, regardless of where you finish, first, last, or somewhere in between. And then we'll have separate awards for all of our championship games. Entertainment-wise, we have an entertainment package specifically designed for each of our destinations as well. So for pricing and deadlines, we know a lot of teams are really getting through their tryouts this time of year, finishing up their rosters, starting to make their plans and complete their plans for the following summer. So our first registration deadline is on the 4th of October, where teams will have an opportunity to save up to $100 per player and per coach on your roster. So that's our first registration deadline. And well, obviously, when you put your team's deposit down, you're not only securing a spot, but you're also locking in the lowest rates that we'll offer throughout the course of the season as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. And just a reminder, these details and nuts and bolts are available via the handout section on the right-hand side of your screen. So feel free to leverage that and download that before you get off the phone today. As we mentioned earlier, we've been taking questions throughout our session today. We've actually seen some great questions come in. So let's go ahead and switch to the Q&A portion and hop right in. So, Andy, I'm going to start off right with you. We asked where people were buzzing in from today, and Jose at the time didn't submit his information, but now via his question, he let us know he's joining us from Puerto Rico, which is awesome.
Very cool.
So welcome, Jose. And he's looking for the best hotel option in Pigeon Forge for his tournament. So can you talk about first our lodging requirements for the week-long experience, and then maybe some of the best resources for our coaches to go ahead and access?
Yeah, absolutely. So at each of our destinations, we certainly have partner and recommended places for teams and families to stay. I will say we're not a destination that is stay to play, if you will, meaning that though we have those partners and recommendations, no team is obligated, nor are there financial penalties for choosing options otherwise. So in Pigeon Forge in particular, as well as Myrtle Beach, I mean, I think it really comes down to the type of experience your team or individual families are looking for. In Pigeon Forge, there's everything from log cabins to resort options to your more general hotels. I really think the theme of it all is that there is something for everybody, depending on what type of experience and or budget each individual family is working with, within. I will say specifically in Pigeon Forge, I think the log cabins are very popular given the destination that it is. And obviously in Myrtle Beach, a lot of families like to take advantage of how close we are to the coastline. So they'll look for either beachfront properties, or there are, certainly resorts that sit on golf courses. So if you swing the clubs, I would definitely bring them to Myrtle Beach as well. But really, we have those resources at our fingertips for teams and families if they need that guidance. But there again, no team is obligated specifically to use our resources if you find options that are more accommodating for your team's or family specific needs.
Perfect. And Chris, I saw that you buzzed in asking, as teams register, will they be able to see what teams are actually going to be in that event? And I'll go ahead and speak to that. Right now, our teams are not publicly available on our website as we are just wrapping up the 2018 summer. This information will be readily available on our website closer to the winter season. Now, if you haven't registered yet and you want to know what teams and what locations they're traveling from prior to registration, your sales rep is going to be your perfect resource for that question. If you've already registered and you're wondering who's joined the tournament since your registration, and we don't quite have that up online yet, your team coordinator is going to be your best resource. And after registration, your sales rep will make that transition to the team coordinator. So at any point throughout the cycle, you'll know the best point of contact to go through to get that information. But it is always available. It will eventually be available on our website, but we have dedicated teammates to help you in the interim. Andy, I'm going to go back in your court. Becky wanted to know a little bit more how we set up pool play and our matchups for the tournament. So can you go ahead and go into that a little bit more detail?
Yeah, as far as how we coordinate the pool action, I mean, we really feel that part of the experience to begin with is the opportunity to play as many teams from outside a team's own network that they would otherwise see. So we really look at the geography of where teams are traveling from and really try to create the pool schedules based off of the cities that teams are visiting with us from. So, if you're from Michigan, you might be in a pool bracket with a team from Florida, Illinois, Wisconsin, Georgia. Our goal is to make it as diverse as possible for each team. Now, for the elimination rounds, obviously, the cookies will certainly crumble as they do. That is really contingent on each team's pool performance, as those are seeded games. But for the pool play, we really look at the geography to create that part of the experience in itself of playing teams you wouldn't normally otherwise play against.
Thanks, Andy. Of course, pool play makes up a big portion of the week, and we haven't covered this to date, but it's a really popular question from our coaches and even more so our parents sometimes, is how does that week break out from Sunday to Friday for a week-long experience?
Sure. So on Sunday is traditionally our opening day. We'll have teams check in with us. We generally do a player skills competition, opening remarks. Pool play is generally reserved for Monday through Wednesday. On those 3 days, each team will play 5 pool play games. 2 games on 2 days, 1 game on 1 day. Thursday is earmarked for the beginning of our elimination rounds. So each team's 6th game is their first elimination game. So all teams will be playing up through at least Thursday of the game week. The semis and finals play on Friday. So obviously only teams that advance through bracket play would play on Friday in itself. But that is the general ebb and flow of the pool schedule throughout the week.
Perfect. And Chris, I saw you follow up on your lodging question, wondering, are there deals for accommodations if you book early? Across our facilities, once again, there is no requirement to stay with any of our partner hotels. However, we believe they offer a great service and awesome options for those that are looking, for example, in Myrtle Beach, a condo or a hotel on the beach, or if you're in Pigeon Forge, if you're looking for a cabin. The rebate that we have available through Myrtle Beach specifically is if your team stays and books 50 nights through our partner Ripken Hotels, you will receive a discount off your total invoice. We'll make sure that your sales rep follows up after the fact so you have a little bit more detail as far as that, but there's no blanket rebate across the board. Once again, we set the mantra that this is your guys' vacation. We're going to give you a lot of great options to stay, but once again, this is ultimately your decision because we know the time outside of the lines is just as important as the time you spend inside them. Awesome. So I have another question here. Andy, and it seems like they heard a little bit through a prior coach that came this year and got to experience the coach Q&A. Can you talk about that in a little bit more detail and just really that new piece of programming that we've added into our Mondays?
Yeah, we really consider the coaches to be a total part of the experience as well. So one of the things that we've added this past summer and the summer before last was a coaches Q&A. So each of our Sundays will actually feature a different former major leaguer as we work with the Major League Players Alumni Association to bring on somebody with a lot of experience to share their background and what made them successful. So on Sunday, we'll have different players out that will be joining us as our guest and featured speaker of the week. They'll obviously get a chance to meet all the teams participating, be in their team photo. They'll actually speak at opening remarks as well, and then we'll do a private Q&A session with all the participating coaches. And it's really an opportunity for them to pick their brains, ask them, again, what made them successful or how they would approach certain things at the youth level with their players to make them more successful. But that is something that we have created as part of the coaches experience. On top of that, the coaches actually receive the same entertainment as the players and coaches. In Myrtle Beach, we'll have passes to the water park, Legends in Concert. They'll actually receive a free round of golf at Myrtlewood Golf Resort. In Dollywood, the coaches receive the same 2-day pass the players do to Dollywood and Splash Country, which is their water park. And we do, again, special gifts for each player and coach. Just as an example, this past summer, the players actually received a Ripken Experience Under Armour gear bag, and the coaches received a Ripken Experience Under Armour polo. And again, on top of all of that, we do the commemorative rings for all the players and coaches. So I know I went into a little more detail on top of just your question about the Q&A session, but it really all ties together because the coaches are very much as part of the experience as the players are.
Thanks, Andy. And we had another question pop in here. A coach being a little bit concerned that they don't have enough time to warm up, or are the facilities accommodating as far as getting the team warm before actually hopping on the field? Because when you have 48, 64 teams in a tournament, it's understandable to come in thinking that you're going to go right on the field and right off of it. What do we offer at the Ripken Experience to allow these teams to make sure that they're stepping up to the box warm and ready to take a couple swings?
Yeah, absolutely. At any given week, we can in Pigeon Forge we can host up to 48 teams in a week, and in Myrtle Beach, we can be as high as almost 70. So it definitely sounds like a lot of teams on the complex, and it is. But the way that we've situated ourselves with the amenities that we offer, with all of our training facilities, I know that Nick briefly touched on it before, but as example, in Pigeon Forge we have 6 fields. So we have 12 dedicated batting cages. So, if you do the math, each team essentially has an opportunity to use their own cage, before each game slot. Obviously, all the shared space is first come, first serve, but, throughout the course of the playing week, teams are generally on site maybe an hour or 45 minutes, beforehand to get prepped and ready. But there is plenty of space for teams to throw and warm up, or obviously use the cages to get themselves loose before the game starts. So for us, it's never an issue. There's always adequate space for teams to do what they need to get warmed up to feel prepared for their games.
Perfect. And Jason is building upon this question in a little bit more detail and wondering, what are the time limits on games and pool play, as well as bracket and elimination?
Yep, absolutely. So for pool play, we offer a 2-hour time limit. Now, it is not a drop dead 2-hour time limit. It's just that no new inning can start after 2 hours. So there's no gray area. It's very black and white. So long as the third out is recorded, the bottom half of an inning, and there is still time left to play, the next inning starts. It doesn't account for, players running back on the field and getting loose in between innings. So it's a 2-hour time limit for all of our pool play games. But again, it's not drop dead. We want teams to play as much baseball as possible. For elimination rounds, obviously we have to have teams advance, so we can't take ties. So we will play those games until there is a end result and a team moves on to the next round.
Awesome. As we said earlier, Andy knows the tournaments like the back of his hand these days. And with that, I think we got questions continue to be peppered at you, Andy. And the one I got this time is, how many teams are in each age group each week? And I know that can obviously vary by location and week.
Yeah, it does vary by location and week. Obviously, we can chat offline with any particular team. If there is a certain time period or week that you're strongly considered, we can give you that feedback. It could range from, in Pigeon Forge, you might have a bracket of 24 teams in your age division. Myrtle Beach could be anywhere from the mid to high teens. That is a loaded question. We'd have to learn a little bit more about the ages and what weeks and time frames teams are looking at. But obviously, all of our events are very popular, and you're going to have some great baseball teams to play against.
Awesome. And once again, the handout on the right-hand side, the PDFs that are available for each facility. Michelle, I saw that you clarified that you're looking at Pigeon Forge. They're usually ranging between 16 to 24 teams per age group, but that whole breakout is available on that PDF on the third page of it. You'll be able to go ahead and see the age groups, and then if there's 2 age groups per week, it's usually about 24 teams. But once again, we'll have a sales rep reach out after the fact to dive into any week in particular. Andy, what is the time range that you can expect a game either to begin early in the morning or, if you're playing under the lights?
It's a great question. Obviously, the way our facilities are orchestrated, they are all synthetic in Myrtle Beach and in Pigeon Forge, and we have a couple of fields that are mixed in Aberdeen. But we will start games as early as 8 in the morning. Specifically, again, in Myrtle Beach and Pigeon Forge, all of our game fields have lights, so we can play into the evening time. So usually evening games, can start around 7:15 or so, but it's really in between that time frame from 8 in the morning till 7:15 at night. Now, I think the one thing that we're very cognizant of is obviously teams are also trying to take advantage of a vacation opportunity. It is baseball first, of course, but with that being said, our tournament schedulers are very cognizant of obviously the time commitment for the week. So they really try to bundle the games as close together as possible for the days in which you might have doubleheaders. So either playing back-to-back games or a time slot off or 2 in between. But what they really try to avoid is giving a team an 8 in the morning followed by 7:15 at night. So we're very cognizant of that, but that's the general timing of when games can begin.
Awesome. And the tough questions may continue, Andy, as Jason is looking and just trying to get a better idea of the fence distances for 12U. And we don't need you to go out there and mark every foot on the field, but can you give a general idea what the average distance is for 12U?
Well, I certainly could give you all the specific dimensions. I have them sitting right in front of me. But with that being said, I think a couple of keynotes to talk about when we're, walking through the experience in the game fields is that, number one, all of our fields are unique. So not one mirrors the other. They all have their own individual characteristics, which I think is part of the exciting component for teams to play in different game fields throughout the week as well. But for 12U in particular, I mean, again, they're not cookie cutter. I think the way you'll see the field situated is it plays more to the true game of baseball, meaning that a general pop-up isn't going to be a home run like you might see at some other destinations. You really have to play real baseball at our facilities because that's what the game's about is playing and strategizing. So just as example, so in Myrtle Beach, Shibe, it's 209 to left, 254 to center, 206 to right. Duncan is 216 down left, 260 to dead center, 216 down right. So I think you're going to find that all of our fields are in that general proximity. But again, I think the thing to take away from is that they're all unique. They all have their individual characteristics, and they all play to the true game part of baseball.
Well said, well said. And Andy, we use a lot of jargon here at Ripken Baseball. So I want to go ahead and press pause because John raised a good point. We mentioned the team coordinator earlier, and I believe it's a huge part of the process and definitely a white glove service piece that separates us. Can you explain more of the role of the team coordinator in your registration and planning process?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you'll have folks like myself that work with teams and their families, making sure they have all the necessary tools and resources to make the decisions to visit with us. And then we introduce, and I'll say we're also always available to assist with questions throughout the entire process, but we dedicate a team and event coordinator to also be paired up with us to make sure that there's additional resources available for teams. So again, Kim McLam is she's actually our senior team coordinator in Myrtle Beach. And so like you would go to her with questions on, hey, I had some specific questions about lodging, or hey, we're going to do a team dinner one night. Like, where's the best place to go and do that? And will help you set that up as well. So the team coordinator's role, it's very versatile. They'll also be assisting with making sure you have all of your team admin documents. So when it comes time to submit rosters or the certificate of insurance for your team, they'll help you through troubleshoot any questions you have on how that information gets submitted and disseminated to all your families.
Perfect. Thank you, Andy. And we had a coach actually ask, how do you guys post the scores and how do we keep our parents in the loop throughout our event? And it's a recent innovation on our team, and it was obviously rolled out for this past summer. But we do have a mobile app now available. So what that means as the coach, and I think it's a great value to your coach to make sure that you guys can stay focused on what's happening in between the lines, is every parent, grandparent, coach, player can download our Ripken baseball app. So through that, you're actually able to track all the scores in real time. Please give our staff about 30 seconds after the final pitch to get the score in there. But that means the standings are going to be updated, the scores are going to be updated, and you're going to have a pulse on the action, whether you're at the facility or you're enjoying one of those nice dinners that Andy just mentioned in Myrtle Beach. Additionally, if any of your parents can't make the trip, we do have streaming services available. And with that streaming services, we also do have an HD replay system through our partners at PlaySite. So if your kid hits a walk-off or you guys won the championship game, you'll actually have an ability to purchase that recording after the fact. So these are some great pieces that we've added recently that we're really excited about to make sure that the people on site, their experience is enhanced and the coaches remain to stay focused while they're there. And then the people that can't make the trip, because it is a investment in time getting down to our facility sometimes, that they can stay connected and a part of the action at home. And Michelle, you are correct. The app is free. So those scores and that access in your pocket is completely free, and we're excited about having that feature available. Awesome. We've gotten a lot of great questions today, and it looks like Ed is actually squeezing one last in before we wrap, Andy. So take your last cup of water here, and we're going to help Ed out before we wrap today. But sure. For 12U, can you talk about the base path dimension as well as the mounds?
Yep, absolutely. So for 12U in particular, actually this is for both 11 and 12U, we play the 50-70 dimensions. So it's real baseball rules. So drop, third, strike, lead, steals, all of that stuff. And what I mean by 50-70 is the pitching distance at 11 and 12U is 50 foot, and the base paths are set at 70 foot. So again, it's referred to as 50-70 for those that may not be as familiar, but that is what our dimensions are specifically for the 12UH division.
Awesome. Thanks again, Andy. So that's all the time we have for today's question and answer. I know there's a couple specific questions still out there talking about specific inventory, maybe some teams that are an event. We'll make sure a teammate gets in touch with you this week to continue the conversation and continue the dialogue. We also know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you cutting this time out of your day and spending it with our team at Ripken. So in a few moments, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to roll our Pigeon Forge video from this past summer. You're welcome to stay and watch it. It's also going to give everyone a couple more minutes to get your last questions in the door. So with that being said, from everyone here at Ripken, we want to thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the Ripken Experience next summer.